Britain's new Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson. Well, tonight, the world is not amused. Well, yes, it is. I'm Brent Goff, and this is The Day.
What would you say to those who are unhappy about you being Foreign Secretary?
They've just made him Foreign Secretary.
What about those who've insulted Mr. Johnson? Good morning.
Mr. Johnson, please stop and have a word with us. It's your first day.
Boris tends to throw words out without really assessing their value and also their impact. He's already caused international eruptions. I think he's going to cause a few more.
What would you say to those who are unhappy about you being Foreign Secretary?
So it's a lot about how she determines this. Has she just got Boris Johnson to give everybody a laugh, or is she going to let him, I don't know, give away the Channel Islands by mistake in negotiations or something like that?
Let's try and just get to the end of this before we go and have a collective, I don't know, not a suicide pact, because we're not like that, but dear God.
Thank you very much. Sorry, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, see you soon. See you. Thanks a lot.
Well, welcome to the program, everyone. On the day, people in Britain and around the world either laughed or cried when these words were spoken. The new Foreign Secretary of Great Britain is Boris Johnson. Now, you remember him, the blonde, charismatic, perpetually disheveled boss of the Brexiteers. Well, you never really know if he's serious or courting controversy with his silliness. Now, many say that he never really wanted Brexit. His quick wit with words matched only by his toxic tongue. The list of global players that he has insulted and offended is long. He called Hillary Clinton a sadistic nurse, Barack Obama the part Kenyan president. And recently, he likened the European Union to Napoleon and Adolf Hitler. Boris and his blunders do not make for good bridge building. And yet, he is the man the new British Prime Minister, Theresa May, tapped to be the face and force of Britain abroad.
The EU, they say, the EU, it's crap, but we have no alternative. That's what they say. That's their line. Well, I'm afraid we do have an alternative. We do have an alternative, and it's a glorious alternative.
People there are experiencing a rude awakening after irresponsible politicians first lured the country into a Brexit and then, once the decision was made, bolted and did not take responsibility. Instead, they went to play cricket. To be honest, I find this outrageous. But it's not just bitter for Great Britain, it's also bitter for the European Union.
But I hope I will not seem unduly boastful if I remind the rest of the world that we invented or codified virtually every single international sport, as I pointed out. And I say this to the Chinese, including ping pong, which originated on country house dinner tables and was called whiff-waff.
I'm not at all worried about Boris Johnson. You know very well what his style is.
They're making their views known in a frank and free way. I have to say that the gentleman that you mentioned, the French foreign minister, in fact, has sent me a charming letter just a couple of hours ago, saying how much he looked forward to working together and to deepening Anglo-French cooperation on all sorts of areas.
During the campaign, he lied a lot to the British people. Now it's him with his back against the wall. He has to defend his country, but this relationship with Europe needs to be clear.
That is the agenda for the next Prime Minister of this country. But I must tell you, my friends, you who have waited faithfully for the punchline of this speech, that having consulted colleagues and in view of the circumstances in Parliament, I have concluded that person cannot be me.
Theresa's done it for a reason, obviously by including government, because if he's outside of government, possibly could have more hassle than it's worth.
And clearly now we have a massive opportunity in this country to make a great success of our new relationship with Europe and with the world. And I'm very excited to be asked to play a part in that.
You've got a few people to apologise to, though, haven't you? President Obama, for example.
Well, as I say, the United States of America will be in the front of the queue. Thank you.
That was the day in London. Let's go now to Brussels to our correspondent, Georg Mattes. Georg, I have to ask you, you've been on this story for a long time. What did you think when you heard the news that Boris Johnson is the new foreign secretary?
Of course, I have to admit that I went, oh God, not him, having followed his campaign word by word. And that was at times a really tough process throughout 4 months of the out campaign there. But then on a second thought, I thought, what a clever move by Theresa May here. She does not let the king of Brexit off the hook in any cabinet meeting where the question will come, well, what do we do now? How did we get into that situation? She can now point at someone on the table. And of course, it is also very helpful in keeping the party, which is split down the middle, as is the entire country, keep the party together. Because after all, Boris Johnson, as many people may boo him out in London, he is still has the support of many Conservative backbenchers.
Yeah, I think you're being very, very lenient on Theresa May tonight, Georg, but we're going to let you get away with it tonight. And what has been the reaction of the European Union to this news?
I think the best description is probably a mixture of disbelief, frustration, but then also some cool-headedness. And if I look at the reaction, for instance, from the French foreign minister when he says he is the decision to put him into the seat is they've put a liar into the seat who is with his back to the wall. I think I'm tempted to draw the parallel to professional boxing here, because you have a lot of fight trash talk, if you want. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's so much at stake that they will get their act together.
Georg, the spokesman of the U.S. State Department, now he was caught off guard yesterday when a reporter told him about the news. I want you to watch the reaction, especially watch the corners of his mouth.
And his replacement as foreign secretary has just been announced as Boris Johnson. How do you think this will affect, or if it will affect at all?
I mean, he wanted to break out in laughter, but, he called himself, he is at the U.S. State Department after all. But can you, Georg, can you think of another situation here in Europe that is similar to this, where we've had a foreign minister that has been the butt of so many jokes?
Well, I like the moment when, he stops smiling and gets back to business. And I think you will have that effect a lot in Europe, because so much is at stake and one wants to keep the UK as close as possible, while at the same time making sure that Brexit does not become a success, because that would pose a problem. But look, this is a club of 28, maybe 27 member states, and people in Brussels are very used to the fact that representatives are sent from the national capitals to Brussels, and these may be difficult candidates. Let's think of Greece. Let's think of Yanis Varoufakis or of Alexis Tsipras, both very difficult candidates. I remember a time when in Riga at a meeting, Varoufakis simply left a minister's dinner, which is crucial for making contact. And yet, at the end of the day, the EU was able to strike a deal with Greece.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if this position is not Theresa May's way of just making Boris Johnson behave.
There's a lot of speculation here, of course. You could also speculate that, clearly she cannot enter this position and say, I was partly on the Remain side. I would actually like an exit from the Brexit, and she can't move into a position like that. So some say here in Brussels, it could be a move by her where she puts him into the driving seat, waits until he cracks a few more unreasonable jokes, puts himself in an untenable position, and then he has to be fired, and with him the entire idea of leaving the UK. That is also a scenario on the table, but we'll have to see how it pans out. And so far she has said Brexit it is, and it'll be interesting to see what Theresa May makes of Brexit. What does it actually mean?
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting. That is a good way to describe it. Georg Mathis for us on the story in Brussels. Georg, thank you very much. Well, politicians around the world have also been taking to social media to share their thoughts on Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. Now, a member of the European Parliament remarked that clearly British humor has no borders. Sweden's former Prime Minister Carl Bildt said, "I wish it was a joke, but I fear it isn't. Exit upon exit." But it's not all negative. The Deputy Prime Minister of Kurdistan posted this picture showing happy times together with the message, "Congrats, Boris Johnson, on becoming UK Foreign Secretary. We look forward to your return to Kurdistan." And Michael Bloomberg, former mayor of New York, says, "Congrats to my friend Boris Johnson on his big new job. Looking forward to working with him on climate, health, and other issues."